Hello, this is Kathy Salisbury, the director of the Ambler Arboretum of Temple University. And today I'm partnering up with EarthFest Presents to talk about another invasive plant species. And this one is kind of relatively new, I want to say, although it did come to the United States. It was first documented in 1916. It's something that's just recently come to awareness that it is presenting a problem in the environment, causing trouble in the ecosystem. It is not part of our native ecosystem. It spreads aggressively and quickly and is causing problems. And so I wanted to introduce you all to it. And because it's easy to pull out, if you have the landowner's permission, I highly recommend that you do this. It's kind of satisfying because it's not too difficult. So this plant is called Narrow Leaf Bittercress, or it's otherwise known as bushy rock cress. Cardamine impatiens is the scientific name of this. And in some places this is part of an early detection and rapid response to invasive plants. So early detection, rapid response is a method for dealing with plants that seem like they could have significant ecological impact because of the way they spread, because of their aggressive nature. They could outcompete native plants and change an ecosystem, but they haven't yet. And because they haven't yet, now is the great time to find them and manage them so that they don't become the big problems like burning bush and Japanese barberry and oriental bittersweet and so many other invasives, lesser celandine and garlic mustard, that so many other invasives have become this problem and just sort of are everywhere. When we're dealing with early detection, rapid response, this is an opportunity to sort of nip the problem in the bud, so to speak. And so here's an opportunity to try and help do that. And I am recording this from my yard, and I have noticed this in the last year or so popping up around my yard, and wanted to share it with all of you so you can take a look out for it and see if you can find it and do something about it. So this plant can get up to 2 feet tall, and it does have hairless stems. So I'm going to try and focus in here on the parts as I talk about them. So it has hairless stems. There's no hairs on this plant at all. And so that's one way to distinguish it from other plants that you might be finding. So no hairs there. It is an annual or a biennial, which means it can either grow, put out flowers, set seed, and die in 1 year, or the first year you'll just find it as a clump of leaves and it won't set flower and it won't have seeds. And then the second year it'll send up flower stalks and it'll set seeds and then it'll die. So the really important key to this plant is to keep it from setting seeds. There's this old saying that says 1 year of seeds, 7 years of weeds. And so we want to be able to get this plant out before it goes to seed. And I'll show you how you know if it's gone to seed or not. The tricky thing about this plant that makes it extra problematic and successful is that each little seed pod that this plant gets has between 10 and 24 seeds in it. And when the seed pods are ripe, they actually burst and they can send their seeds several feet away when they explode, when these seed pods explode, several feet away from the plant, which allows this plant to form colonies very quickly and in a lot of cases outcompete our native plants. So in addition to the hairless stem, you'll find this plant growing in dappled shade, in light shade areas, the edges of woodlands. If it's an open space and sunny and a little bit wet, like a damp meadow or a wet meadow, you may find it growing in there as well. But these woodland edges and this dappled shade really seem to be a place where they thrive. The flowers are in these rounded clusters at the tops of the plant, so you can see here. It's not very showy, and though there are kind of little white-green petals there, it's a little bit breezy today, but you get the idea. They are not very showy at all, not super ornamental. That is the extent of the flower there. It doesn't get any more showy than that. And so that is one way to identify it as well. You see beneath the flower clusters here these long pods. So that's what the seed pods look like. So eventually they'll ripen and they'll burst open. So the seed pods can be about 1 inch long, and they are straight, slender pods. They kind of point up towards the sky, and then again, once they're ripe, they'll burst open, sending the seeds away. Another ID characteristic, so these are compound leaves. So here we have, you can see all these leaves are kind of arrow-shaped or lance-shaped here. They can have lobes. You can see here there's some lobes on these, but these are leaflets. This whole thing here is a leaf. So this whole bit of the plant here, that entire thing is a leaf, and then each one of these is a leaflet. So they can have lobes. So the leaves are alternate on the stem. They alternate up the stem. So 1, then 2. There's none across from each other. None across from each other. There's just one at a growing point and then another one at the next growing point. And so they're alternate. No hairs, alternate, compound leaves. You can kind of see it looks kind of ferny, lacy foliage here, right? So the biggest giveaway for this plant, though, because there are some lookalikes, and in fact, there is a native Pennsylvania rock cress or bittercress. And so you don't want to pull out the native plants that belong here, but you do want to pull out the invasive plants. And so what you'll see here is when you go and look at the base of the leaf itself, remember the leaf is this entire appendage here, right? It's this whole thing. Here is the entire leaf. But when you go and look at the base of the leaf, let me zoom in here, you'll see this little appendage. This is called an auricle, and it's basically like a little ear, a little flap of modified leaf, a lot of modified plant tissue here at the base of the leaf. And if you see that, you know that you have this narrow leaf bittercress. If you don't see that, then you have a different plant and you want to identify it positively before you pull it out. But this auricle here, that is the good ID. Here's another one that you can see here, right at the base of the leaf. That flap of plant material there is the biggest clue for knowing that you have the right plant. So once you've identified this plant, you can just pull it out. And so I have here my trusty bucket that I put everything in, and you can pull it out. And so it really is very easy to pull out here, and you can see it's got this root system, fibrous root system, but it's easy to pull out and get all of the roots. So you want to shake the soil off a little bit, and you want to get this before the seed pods start to burst. If it already has seed pods, like this one does, you want to take off the seed pods and dispose of them in the trash. You can put the rest of the plant in your compost pile and it won't cause any problems. But the seed pods you do not want to add to your compost because they'll thrive there, and then when you use your compost and spread it around in your gardens, you'll just be moving this plant around the landscape. And so you can pull these out and dispose of them properly. Now you see, once you've pulled this out, you have a disturbed soil here. And what happens with disturbed soil is that this creates a place for new invasive plants to settle in. Invasive plants are successful because they take advantage of opportunities, and they're very quick to germinate, and they don't have as many specific requirements for germination as many of our native plants do. And so what you want to do is prevent them from having a place to seed in and settle in again. And so you're just going to kind of take the soil and you're going to cover it up. You're going to either plant a desirable plant in its place if you have one and you're looking for a place to plant something, or you're just going to mulch it. In this case, I have lots of leaves, so I'm just going to cover up this spot with leaves, and that prevents seeds, or at least as many seeds, from settling in and new invasives from forming there. And make sure that where I took the leaves from is also covered up. And so we've done it. We've removed an invasive plant. Now, as I take a look around my landscape, I can see here, a few feet away from where I found this one, there is a clump of these. And so I'm going to spend some time in my yard removing these. Because they're annuals or perennials, because they're annuals or biennials, you can weed whack these down and to keep them from going to flower and to keep them from setting seed. But if they already are in flower and they already have seed pods on them, even if the seed pods aren't ripe, you really should hand pull them. Or if you use herbicides, that is an option as well for control. So that is a new invasive plant for you to check out to help control. You can go to different spaces if you have the landowner's permission, and you can help to manage this invasive plant to protect our natural spaces and our woodlands. So I hope to see you out at the Ambler Arboretum and our EarthFest Presents events as soon as we're able to get back into the gardens and back to meeting in groups. But in the meantime, thank you for joining us on these virtual tours and virtual talks and for helping to take care of the environment. I'm Kathy Salisbury from the Ambler Arboretum at Temple University on behalf of EarthFest Presents, and this was a little bit of a talk on Narrow Leaf Bittercress. You can find more videos like this on our YouTube Ambler campus page. Looking forward to seeing you soon. Take care.